This is day three of the Entrada. Day three of the Entrada. Friday, July 2nd. Day three of the Entrada of Don Diego de Vargas. Entrada into the Pueblo of Picuries. This is all about the Picuries Pueblo. Said Governor and Captain General placed a royal army half a league away in order that the horses and mules would not damage the cornfield. How merciful. Don Diego de Vargas is going to make sure his horses and mules do not damage the cornfields of the Picuries Pueblo. In fact, Don Diego de Vargas is going to show a lot of mercy to the Picuries Pueblo. On the second day of the month of July of the date and year, about 6 in the afternoon, I, said Governor and Captain General, with said camp, set eyes upon the Pueblo of the nation of the Picuries, having come by the said road, which is very mountainous, with dangerous slopes to climb, and descend with care and suspicion, lest the said rebel enemy will gather together to ambush. As we came in view, they were making and sending up their smoke signals of warning, and having descended to a mesa which overlooked the cornfields of this Pueblo, at what seemed to be a distance of half a league away, it seemed to me to be a good campsite for the royal army to pass the night on the outskirts of the Pueblo near the river and valley. And to safeguard against damage by horses and mules, I then ordered the corporals and officers of war that they should halt here and quarter the royal army, so that these rebels would know by this intention my goodwill, that the Spanish would not damage their cornfields. And for better judgment and to ensure their confidence, I went down to see the way to their Pueblo. I found it abandoned, which I much regretted for their ignorance and rebelliousness, and for my part by demonstrations, in order to show them even more the desire for their peace and return to their former style. I ordered my Secretary of Government and War and Captain and Sargento Mayor Antonio Giorgi that they should leave in place in said plaza across, and I did not allow the soldiers to break a single wall, nor search the houses of the Pueblo in case they had food supplies within, since my intent was only their submission, and for them to pay for whatever they can give me as much as they wish. And so that it may be recorded, I sign it with the leaders and officers of war, together with my Secretary of Government and War, Don Diego de Vargas, Zapata, Lux and Ponce de Leon, Antonio Giorgi, Diego Arias Queros, Antonio Balierde. Before me, Alfonso Real de Aguilar, Secretary of Government and War. Secretary of Government and War. So, is he not merciful? Vargas tells his Antonio Giorgi, Sargento Mayor, the government, is Secretary of Government and War, hey, do not attack the Picuries. Do not break any of their walls, and do not search any of their pueblos to find any of the grain stores within them. For some reason, the other pueblos we're going to do differently, but the Pueblo of the Picuries, we're just going to walk right past them. And this, is quite different, because day one, we saw what happened on day one. Day one, they went ahead and killed 11 people of the Pueblo of the Cuyamungue. So 11 people of the Cuyamungue Pueblo got killed on day one. And then day two, they just walked past 2 more Pueblos. They just walked past the San Lazaro and San Cristobal Pueblo. And they noticed that they had their cornfields planted. And they called them enemy rebels. These enemy rebels had their cornfields planted. So what is that supposed to mean? I don't know. I just know that he killed 11 of the Cuyamungue Puebloan people. He killed 11 on day one. Day two, he walks, through the San Lazaro, the San Cristobal, the Extobal. He just crossed them, and they saw that they had planted their cornfields. It doesn't look like we're not going to attack the Pueblo, the San Lazaro, the San Cristobal Pueblo too, and we're not going to attack the Pueblo, the Picuries. So for some reason, you know, I think it's going to get more and more desperate as they go along. But the Pueblo, the Picuries, that we're told, you know, we're just going to we were at one spot on the river, now we're over here, and we don't want them to think that we were going to take their stuff. And so, yeah, there you go. They said, let's put a cross in the plaza. And they said, don't break any walls, don't steal any food. And then they got the fuck up on out of Dodge. They didn't do shit. They didn't do shit to the people of the Picuries Pueblo. Now, why is that? True or false, the Picuries celebrated Vargas' return in 1692. True. So the Picuries, they were a part of the 1680 revolution. The Picuries were there. The Picuries were a part of the 1680. They showed up on day 2. They showed up on the second day, August the 2nd. So the Picuries were a part of the 1680 revolution, the so-called Pueblo Revolt. But 12 years later, apparently the Picuries are going to celebrate Don Diego de Vargas' return. So yes, that is true. So this is, my guess is that the Picuries had, you know, shown a lot of love to the Spanish for, you know, as soon as they came back. And then he just went back to their, you know, again, and they ran off. And so he's like, well, shit. He said, you know, something about the rebelliousness and their ignorance. What? How dare you just run away from us when we show up? We are your friends, goddammit, and we'll let you pay us tax. You go ahead and pay your taxes. You know, pay as much as you want. You know, if you have extra, and when it comes to grain, we'll take the extra. That's what. So in the very beginning of the Entrada, when it came to the Picuries Puebloans, he seems to be very generous. He seems to be like, shit, bending over backwards, not to attack them, not to steal anything that they have. The mission, the entire mission for this, you know, Verida, this Entrada, is to steal their goddamn fucking corn. To steal their corn by purchase or by force. So I'm going to buy that goddamn corn from you, and if you want to run off, then I'm just going to take it from you. But apparently for the Picuries, that's not the policy for the Picuries. We're just going to walk by the Picuries Pueblo. And, you know, we did walk by those other 2 Pueblos, right? San Cristobal and San Lazaro. We walked by those, you know, 2 Pueblos. They had corn that was planted. But we didn't walk by the Cuyamungue. The Cuyamungue. What is it? The Cuyamungue Pueblo. We killed, the Entrada, the Spanish people killed 11 on day 1 when it came to. So, let's see. The Picuries people, they spoke Tiwa, T-I-W-A, true or false, at the Picuries Pueblo. In 1990, the population was 270. That's true. The Picuries people are still around today. There's, you know, 270 of them. I want to say at the Picuries Pueblo today. At the Picuries Pueblo today. So, we just got to go, you know, let's just run through these questions here. Why not, you know, why not learn some shit this morning? So we got 24 questions. I'm just going to ask the question and then I'm going to answer them. And that's just how it's going to be. What years are the first term of office for the first governor of Colorado? That was John Long Rout. He was the governor of Colorado 1877 to 1878. So that's the end of Reconstruction. So John Long Rout, finally, right? Thank God. We got fucking Colorado by the skin of our chinny chin chin. John Long Rout, 1877 to 1878. And that's, you know, November 76, January of 79. But essentially the entire years of 1877, the entire year of 1878. So that's the first governor of Colorado, John Long Rout. Not the first governor of the territory, but of the actual state. And the state, right, we all know is 1876 is when Colorado became a state. Now, June 1694, you know how many brand new Spanish families had arrived in Santa Fe? 66 and a half. So that's about 200 new settlers. 200 new settlers just showed up to Santa Fe in June 1694. So Santa Fe is starving. They're starving and they're hungry, and now all of a sudden 200 motherfuckers just showed up. So that's more defenders, but it's also more mouths to feed. And that's one of the primary reasons why Don Diego de Vargas is going around all the way to Taos and Colorado and going to all these different pueblos in order to rob them, because Santa Fe needs some goddamn food. Now he's going to find, you know, some granaries in Taos, but he didn't know that. But then if you did find grain or corn at the Picuries Pueblo or any of these beginning San Lazaro or San Cristobal, and even at the Cuyamungue Pueblo, you have had to carry those grain, you know, those stores of grain all around. And this is going to be a 2-week journey. And then, you know, you could just go back to Santa Fe, and it's only a day or two trip to go back to some of these places. So, you know, onwards and forwards. All the grain is up in Taos. That's where we're going to get the grain. And then how they get all that grain, apparently there's like 100 men. And there's, you know, mules and horses. So they got mules and horses and wagons and shit. So they're going to take all the grain and put it on the wagons. You know how long the Folsom people have been in North America? 10 to 11,000 years ago. They've been around since the last ice age. The Folsom people have been in North America for 10 to 11,000 years ago. That's according to archaeology. The historical record says that Native Americans only been around 300 or 400 years. But that's the written historical record. The archaeological historical record says 10 to 11,000 years ago. The Folsom people have been here from 10 to 11,000 years. So what's the ancient buffalo that the Folsom people used to hunt called? That's called the bison, bison antiquus. Bison, bison antiquus. Pueblo or Plains, San Lazaro and San Cristobal, those are Puebloans. True or false? Taos, New Mexico is where the historical northern Tiwa lived. The Tiwa, that's also the same language. So Taos speaks Tiwa, Taos speaks Tiwa, and then so does the Picuries Pueblo. The Picuries Pueblo speaks Tiwa too. Towa, there were people that spoke Towa lived in the San Juan Pueblo, now called the Okewinga. So Towa, true or false? The Towa lived, you know, at the San Juan Pueblo. They speak Towa there. That's actually false. It was the Tiwa. The Tiwa lives at the San Juan Pueblo. The Towa, I'm not for sure where the Towa, but the Tiwa, T-E-W-A at the San Juan Pueblo, and then T-I-W-A at Taos, and T-I-W-A is the Picuries Pueblo too. So T-I-W-A is both Taos and Picuries, and Tiwa. Tiwa is San Juan Pueblo, also called the Okewinga. True or false, the iconoclasm fury happened against the Catholic Church right after the so-called Pueblo Revolt of 1680. True, the iconoclasm fury is where they destroy all the shit of the Catholic Church. And they're going to go back to their religious ways. Why did Don Diego de Vargas begin his Entrada northward in New Colorado in the summer of 1694? To pilfer food, to steal corn, to steal the grain stores from the surrounding Pueblo natives by purchase or by force. In Costilla County, Vargas finds heaps of poop of what animal? So he finally gets to Colorado, and what? He finds a bunch of shit of the buffalo. True or false? The traditional enemies of the Utes were the Tiwas, the Tanos, the Picuries, the Jemez, and the Keres. That's true. Who was Colorado's 7th governor? Colorado's 7th governor is also the 1st governor, John Long Route. John Long Route was also governor in 1891 and 1892. So 1877, 1878, 1891, 1892. John Long Route was twice the governor of Colorado. Plains or Pueblo, Zuni and Hopi are both Pueblo Native Americans. Plains are Pueblo, Apache, and Utes. They're both Plains. On July 12th, 1694, how many Utes attacked Vargas just after he crossed the Rio Grande? July 12th, 1694, he had 300 Utes had ambushed him in the morning, 300. And they injured some of his men, but they weren't able to kill any of them. But the Spanish were able to kill 8. They killed 8 Utes And then the Utes acted like nothing had happened and apologized, pretending they didn't know who the Spanish actually were. What will Zeb Pike do with his men suffering from frostbite when he crosses the Sangre De Cristo Mountains? He's going to leave them. So the Tiwa and the Cuyamungue, is that the plains of the Pueblo people? The Tiwa and the Cuyamungue, there's a Pueblo. All right, the Tiwa, we just got done saying that the Tiwas, Picuries, and Taos, Cuyamungue's Pueblo. Which pass did Zebulon Montgomery Pike cross? I don't know. I don't know which pass he crossed. That's a good question. Very good question. Number 21 is without an answer. Probably the Levada Pass. There's like 3 main passes. But we'll figure that out. I'll get back to you. Santo Domingo. It's another Puebloan people. Santo Domingo. You have Jemez, Keres, Pecos, San Felipe, Santa Ana, Tanos, Tewas, Taos, Picuries. These are all Pueblo Indians. True or false, there were more than 1,000 Spaniards living in Santa Fe in 1694. True. About 1,100 Spaniards, and they just got 200. So they had 900, now they got more than 1,000. What happened to Juan de Zaldivar and the 11 Spanish soldiers on December 4th, 1598 at the Acoma? These are the Acoma Puebloan natives after stealing corn and blankets from the Keres women and children. They were killed. Juan de Zaldivar and 11 Spanish soldiers are going to get killed because they're stealing corn and blankets from the Acoma people. They're stealing corn and blankets, and they're going to get killed. 7 of the 16 of the Spanish are going to survive. And then 1 month later, 1 month and a half, you had the Spanish go back to the Acoma Pueblo, and they killed 500. There's a 3-day battle, January 22nd, 1599. So before it's December 4th, 1598, and then January 22nd, 1599, you're going to have a 3-day battle. And this is because of the killing of Zaldivar and 11 Spaniards. So Juan de Zaldivar and 11 Spanish soldiers were trying to steal corn and blankets from the Keres women and children. They got killed, and so the Spanish goes in there, and they kill 500 of the Acoma Puebloan people in a 3-day battle, January 22nd, 1599. 500. They killed 500 of the Acoma Puebloan people. Of the ones who were not killed, you know what the Spanish did to them? 24, they cut the legs off of 24 of them, amputated to at least 24 of the Acoma Puebloan people, and then the ones that they didn't murder, they banished them to a 20-year enslavement. Oh, you don't want to get killed by us? Well, now you get to be our slaves for 20 fucking years. So that's what happens, right? That's what happens. You go to the Acoma Pueblo, and you try to steal their blankets, you try to steal their corn, and then they shoot you, and then the Spanish comes in, and then they just kill 500 of as many Acoma Puebloan people as they possibly can. That was 100 years before Vargas or what have you, but still gives you a sense of who these damn Spaniards are, right? Cortez and Pizarro, fucking De Soto and Cortez and Pizarro. Are you fucking kidding me? And Coronado and Pizarro and Cortez and De Soto. These are some of the most brutal motherfuckers on the planet. So now we got to go find out. Can we just type into Google which pass Sangre De Cristo Mountains Zebulon Pike. Let's see. The Medano Pass? Is that what we're reading? The Medano Pass? He was the first white man to travel through the Sangre de Cristo. The Sandhill Pass and the Mosca Pass? I don't know. We'll have to come back. So coming back with some more knowledge about Colorado, about Castilla County, just about, life in general.